I'm sure you're aware of this, the footage from the Mexican Air Force.
Yeah, very aware of that.
What do you think about that?
Well, again, it's IR footage, which is really interesting. They actually got the cameras for drug runners, right? So you can see in the infrared, so it's beyond the observable, eye. I myself have not detailed looked at the footage. However, FLIR experts and people that work with NSA have looked at it for me, and these are not lights in the distance. These are craft, very similar to what Commander Fravor talks about, without plumes, without heat signatures, non-traditional field propulsion systems. We don't have that.
And I thought they tried to, is this it right here? Is this the Mexican Air Force footage?
Yeah. So they tried to say these were lights on like an oil rig out in the water. That's been debunked.
Yeah, they tried to say it was a fire in an oil rig, right?
No.
The 2004
to the
Comcast
pilots.
video of the year was the Mexican Air Force tracking like 6. So literally right after our incident, we come back, and I think we were getting ready to go to Fallon, and I had Comcast, and the home page comes up, and there's this video, and I go, holy cow, that looks like what we chased. And it was like 6 of these things, and they were tracking them in the same area too, right off the coast of Ensenada.
And it's not as rare. There's now admitted an increased frequency. A Pentagon spokeswoman finally went off script. I was tracking the scripts for the last 2 years of what Pentagon spokespeople say about Commander Favor's experience. Someone went off script last week in the New York Times, and she admitted there's an increased frequency of near misses because of these AAVs, anomalous aerospace vehicles. So it's pretty astounding. We're getting all these kind of revelatory moments in these little seeds that these are not ours. We don't have this. Even Elon doesn't have this. I mean, this is a propulsion system unlike anything we have. It's amazing. It's gravity propelled.
Now, that gimbal footage, when it said that there's a fleet of them, how far away are those guys where you don't see the individual objects, you only see a singular spot?
Well, the pod is, when you get pretty narrow, it'd be like, if I put 3 people around you, I can look at you and not see the other people. So that's what the pod is doing. But the radar is seeing everything because it has an AESA radar in it, which is an active electronically scanned array. So instead of like the radars we had, which did the mechanical, doing this, like old school, this thing is just a panel that sits in the front of the airplane, and through beam shaping, it can move and it can look all over. So we used to have what was called track while scan, so we would be able to track a target while we're still scanning. This thing has it scans while it tracks. So it literally, if the radar sees you, it has basically a weapons quality solution. And it can do that on multiple targets. It's the same way the spy radar, the Aegis system works on the cruisers. It can track multiple targets and have weapons quality on all these different targets while it's still scanning a volume.
So in that image, you're seeing one individual object, but there's other objects?
Yes. The radar is seeing the object that the pod is looking at where they're talking. And when you hear the video, you hear the pilot say, dude, look at the SA page. There's a whole fleet of them. So what they're seeing is the pod is looking at the main. That's the bigger object at the gimbal, the thing that's roll tight on the screen. And there's 5 smaller things in front. So this thing's just sitting there, and then he said they turn around on the radar and start going the other way while the pod's looking at this guy just kind of rotating.
So like a mothership and smaller aircraft.
Could be.
Something along those lines. Is there video of those smaller aircrafts or just the video of the one large one?
The only thing they have is the targeting pod. I would highly doubt, even if they had the video, that they're going to release the radar video because of classification levels.
Are you able to tell the story you told me about what was underwater with your other buddy? Because is that okay?
Yeah. So it's amazing. People come out of the woodwork when they figure out you've had this, because now they don't feel alone. So I was working. I still do it, but I was doing oil and gas at the time on a contract, and one of the guys, the story came out, and he was a Navy helicopter pilot. And he comes in, he goes, dude, hey, can I talk to you, man? I go, what about? He goes, dude, I got to talk to you. And I said, well, what do you want to talk to me about? He says, dude, you know your UFO? He said, yeah. He goes, I had a similar experience. I said, what's that? He said, he was flying CH-53s, which is a big heavy lift that the Marine Corps uses, and the Navy uses it for certain things. And when they go for the East Coast, they do a lot of shooting at the time, it was off of Puerto Rico. We had Roosevelt Roads that they ended up closing. But he was flying out of there. And, you got super clear Caribbean water. And they have these things, they're called BQMs. They fly around, and then when they're all done, because they'll fly towards the ships, and the ship they can track with the radar And then they also do in the ships or submarines shoot torpedoes. They're called telemetry rounds. So they gather all the data on what the torpedo is doing underwater, and then they blow ballast, and this thing will come to the surface and float, and then they go pick them up, and then they can extract all the data out of them. So they do it for both. So he said the first time they're out and they're going to pick up this BQM. And those things, when they're flying, they're done. A parachute comes out and they hook it up. The helo drops the swimmer in the water. He goes and hooks this whole thing up, and then they hoist the whole thing up and fly back, and then they extract the data. So he says he's sitting in the front. In helicopters, there's, CH-53, you can actually see down by your feet, just like typical, like you got a Hawaiian ride, because you can see when you're touching down. So you got really good visibility out of those things, and you can stick your head out the window, too, because you're just kind of hanging out. He says he's going on there, and they're getting this thing hooked up, and as he's looking down, because they're, 50 feet above the water, he sees kind of this dark mass coming up from the depths. And they start to hoist the diver up, and they've got the BQM, and as they hoist it up, he says, and he's looking at this thing going, what the hell is that? And then it just goes back down underwater. It just once they pull the kid and the BQM out of the water, this object descends back into the depths. So he thinks, well, that was pretty weird. So he goes out, he says, not too long later, a few months later, he's out and he's picking up a torpedo. So he says they hooked the diver up on the winch and they're lowering him in, and as he's looking down, he sees this big, massive, he goes, it's not a submarine. He's seen submarines before. Once you see a submarine, you can't confuse it with something else. This big object, kind of circular, he says, is coming up from the depths, and he starts screaming through the intercom system to tell him to pull the diver up, and the diver's like a few feet from the water. So they reverse the winch, and the diver's thinking, what the hell's going on? And he's getting pulled up, and all of a sudden, he said the torpedo just got sucked down underwater, and the object just descended back down into the depths, and they never recovered the torpedo.
Jesus.
And this happened in the late 90s. Mid to late 90s, I think it is. I could probably get in touch with him and ask him. And he told me this story, and I'm like,
how do you report that?
You come in and go, well, where'd the torpedo go? It just got sucked down. It just went down, and then you get the people that attribute it as, something happened when it blew ballast and it just took on water and sank. And he's like, it didn't sink. He goes, it literally looked like it got sucked down. The only reason they talked to him when they did the New York Times stuff, they talked to him, but because the incident was from the 90s, they wanted something, newer. So they did not include it, but I know they talked to him about it.
Now, what was the other footage that we were looking at? There was the first footage that Jamie pulled up that wasn't the gimbal footage.
Mm-hmm.
That was
the Go Fast.
The Go Fast. What is that?
That's it actually looks more like a Tic Tac, but they saw it going across the water, and they're just grabbing a lock. So they're seeing this with their eyes, and he gets the FLIR to lock on it, and that's when you hear the kid go, "Oh, I got it," because he gets the auto track, and it's just something screaming across the surface of the water. So.
And this is in the same area?
This is East Coast, yeah. This is the same time frame as the gimbal video.
So the idea that these are birds, or the idea that this is a radar glitch, or somebody said pilot error, like on a clear blue day, Commander Fravor has nerves. I mean, that kind of thing that people have said on your show to you, that, these are explanations that make sense.
Who said that?
I don't want to say their names.
Mick West?
Yeah, sure.
Mick believes everything. Like every single thing that's ever happened has a rational explanation for it.
so the probability that all the radars went off at the wrong time. Commander Fravor had nerves. That all the other pilots up there with him, that this thing shot off like a gun instantly. Like that was somehow perfectly coordinated. That's a conspiracy. That's a fabrication. Probably Occam's razors. The events happened exactly like we're being told.
Yeah, for us it was. And I'll go back to the beginning of the story of, the other pilot who was brand new. She had been in the squadron for 4 months, 5 months. So she's pretty junior. She was still working on her initial qual on the airplane. And, so she gets we get the real world vector, and it's like, okay, real world vector, cool. I'm going to get to do something real, exciting. Then you see the water, and you think, oh, something's sinking, because it's kind of that shape of an airplane, that cross type. So now it's, oh crap, now it's search and rescue. We got to go down and see, because there's people, and we are sympathetic. And to the Tic Tac, and as soon as the Tic Tac, it's like, holy shit, what is that? And when you get, some people get very emotional when you talk about it. Because for me, it was like, for her, when you talk to her, she has a disdain for some of the leadership that didn't tell us that these things were out there. They're here now, we're getting vectored because we were the first time the manned airplanes had been airborne when one of these things showed up. that no one even gave us a brief that, hey, we're seeing these objects out here for the last 2 weeks. They're just kind of, you might want to know they're out there. And they never told us. No one knew these things existed besides the radar operators. And the radar operators didn't know what they were. They just knew they were seeing blips. So and there's a lot of stuff that, that it flew around and it came around me, and it didn't do any of that stuff. It's the story that I gave you is just relatively benign. But it was, it's an interesting experience.
So these incidents that they reported were taking place before you saw that Tic Tac encounter.
Yeah,
they were taking place over a period of how many weeks?
2 weeks. We went out at the beginning of the month for this 2-week at sea period. We pulled in for Thanksgiving, but other than that, we were out till I think December 21st is when we pulled the ship back in. Besides pulling in for the 3 days at Thanksgiving. So, yeah, for the 2 weeks prior, so this was on the 14th, and we went out at the beginning of the month. So about 2 weeks, they had been watching these things come down, go up, come down, go up. But it was always when we were not flying, which is really probably like the midnight time frame until early in the morning the next, till noon the next day. And then we just happened to go. And if you think about it, I laugh at, if there was some little green man flying around in that Tic Tac, he probably got back to the mothership and got yelled at for being seen.
And then look at this blade.
Oh, no.
It's stuck in the door.
Well, watch this. Look how crazy this is.
As he walks in?
Yeah, look.
Oh, my God.
I mean, that is fucking bonkers, man. That thing is stuck into the wall.
That would have fucking took his legs off.
100%. Look how deep it went into the wall. That had some serious force behind it, man.
Where the fuck did that come from?
Good question. Demons.
That's the only question. That's the only answer is demons.
If demons are just causing little car accidents every now and then, just tripping your car.
Angels in the outfield. Remember when fucking Danny Glover, they were helping him fucking catch the ball?
Yeah.
California Angels?
Imagine angels. They don't have any time for the homeless. They're out there fixing baseball games.
It's like fucking Pete Rose.
How dumb is that to think that the angels are going to help you with a baseball game?
They don't make movies like that anymore. It's a good fucking movie.
I've been talking to a lot of people over the last few months, which is maybe not a good sign for the direction my life's going. But I've been talking to a lot of people over the last few months that think that aliens are angels and devils. And that's like when you're hearing about like all those stories in the Bible about fallen angels and devils, like these people think that they were referring to aliens.
That fell from the sky?
No, it's just the term, the way they're phrasing it is like fallen angel, meaning like Satan, and that there's good angels and bad angels, there's demons and angels. What these people believe, and I don't necessarily agree with it, nor do I even understand it enough that I can argue against it, but they believe that all these stories are really referencing a spiritual force that's always here all the time and sometimes exists in the physical form. And it might be existing as these things that we keep looking for, like aliens and UFOs. And it might be doing that maybe even to comfort us, or maybe to be more plausible, or maybe to hide the true nature of what they are. So it will present as if it's from another planet. But really what it is some sort of interdimensional spiritual being that may or may not be evil. It might be good, it might be evil, and there might be a bunch of different kinds out there in the world. But that these stories from like the ancient Hindu texts, and Billy Carson talks a lot about that, and a bunch of other people talk about these different stories from these ancient texts that have people either interacting with sky people or someone coming from the sky and interacting with them. And they think that a lot of these things might be talking about the same thing, and that these aliens that people are encountering, there's some sort of an interdimensional being that has essentially always been here.
I'll tell you who it is.
Who?
It's fucking John Travolta from that movie. You ever seen that movie where he's the angel?
Battlefield Earth?
Whatever. He's a fucking angel. Nah, he has crazy hair.
Dreadlocks.
No, this is a different John Travolta movie. Michael.
Yeah.
Oh.
When he's named
Hold on,
Michael.
put that back up.
I want to think at a time. Sorry.
Bro, the hair is nuts.
Look at this. Aliens might be living among us disguised as humans or in a base inside the moon, according to a new Harvard study. Yo, when there's Harvard studies is saying there might be a base inside the moon. How wild are things right now?
Oh, my God.
This is so crazy.
But none of this is it's not really that like shocking.
Right. It's not that shocking.
Once you have knowledge of the other realm, nothing's impossible.
No.
Nothing in this life is impossible or fucking shocking anymore.
Well, it's still shocking.
It's shocking
exciting,
slightly,
but like
but-
space is insane. This is way less insane than what we know about space.
I mean, space and water. The deep sea is something that's fucking as crazy as this to me.
As crazy and undiscovered.
It's fucking nuts. There is an end. It stops. But does it really?
I think it does. But the thing is, like, they don't know what the fuck is down there. They're always finding a bunch of new cool fish.
That Mariana Trench?
Let me see what it says. The researchers have investigated so-called cryptoterrestrials. These could be disguising themselves as humans to fit in, may come from Earth's future, or might have descended from intelligent dinosaurs. This guy's from Harvard.
Men in Black.
This guy got all the mushrooms. They're probably doing a Harvard mushroom study, and this dude just stole the stock.
I honestly think, look,
Went
the
out
study
into the
was just to
woods.
come up with an answer. Like, give us some fucking answer.
We're so vulnerable. And that's one of the weirder things. Like, so first we should get into what you do, because you have a very interesting theory. Tell everybody what your background is, first of all.
Yeah, all right. That does seem like a good place to start. My background is in anthropology, biological anthropology. My research mostly focuses on evolutionary anatomy, biomedicine. I've done some archaeology, various places around the world, in Montana. But the reason I'm here, I assume, because according to my friend Matt, we were butchering a mule deer, I think I shot. And I was like, yeah, I got to go to this conference. And I was like, do you want to know what it's about? He's like, nobody gives a shit about what you do other than UFOs, man. I was like, damn it, he's right. Like, I did actually used to do a lot of what I thought was cool stuff. But no, the main thing is that I've become known for advocating for this idea that UFOs and the aliens are actually our time-traveling future human descendants. I wouldn't even say as opposed to extraterrestrials, because I do think that's a component too. I oftentimes get pigeonholed. People are like, oh, you just think they're all time travelers. I don't. I actually say this all the time, but it doesn't matter. I do think there's a lot going on. But my background and the reason I approach this question this way is because there's a lot of characteristics of these aliens that look so hominin. They look just like us. And specifically what we'd expect to see in our hominin future if the same evolutionary trends continue into the future. So I kind of just tie those things together. And even the saucer-shaped craft seemingly are time machines themselves. So that's kind of the Cliff Notes version.
Well, it's a theory that a lot of people have independently sort of come to, right?
Yeah,
Like,
especially recently.
and the concept of, well, if you just think about ancient man. I was watching this documentary on Neanderthals last night about this one intact Neanderthal skeleton that they found that was, it had sort of been, he had died in a cave, and there's stalagmites. Is stalactites or mites? How do you say it?
Tights are up, mites are down.
So he was essentially mineralized.
Mm-hmm.
There was stuff all over the body, and it took a long time for them to break this body.
I think I saw that. Was that on Netflix?
No, I was watching it on YouTube. Maybe originally it was on
okay.
Netflix, but it was just documenting how strange this body was that they had found. But it was immensely strong, like much stronger than us. One of the interesting things was that their visual cortex, the part of the brain that would process imagery, was larger than ours, 10 to 20% larger.
Yeah.
And that so these things probably had better eyesight than us, perhaps even were able to see at night, and that this was a bigger, stronger version of a human being, like much more durable than what we are, modern 2025 Homo sapiens.
Yep.
If you just look, that's it. So that's one of them.
Cool.
Neither human nor Neanderthal.
Oh, really?
This is a published.
Is this the
same?
same? This might not be the same one. This is maybe a different one. That's a weird one because what's that fucking thing on its head?
That's what it says. It's a stalactite growing out of it or something.
Wow, in a weird form. Weird.
Yeah, it's like a unicorn.
Yeah, like a
So
crest.
They do have a sagittal ridge.
Yes.
Homo erectus had one. There's an offshoot in our hominid lineage called the Paranthropus or robust Australopithecines, and they had a full-on like gorilla style sagittal ridge. Yeah, because they were vegetarians, so they just chewed all day.
Right, so they had massive muscles to chew.
Yeah, their whole face is huge.
Wow.
Neanderthals kind of, I mean, they were just big. It's
Yeah.
just a robusticity thing, but there is evidence from Shanidar Cave in Iraq where they were using their teeth as tools. We think they were like tanning hides. They were holding the hide in their mouth and then like scraping all the nasty bits off.
Oh.
And you can see that in the tooth wear. So yeah, they were pretty badass. They were the first. I don't know. I think this is cool, but a lot of people think I'm a nerd too. They were the first to use the flake. Like for 2.8 million years, we just hit a piece of rock and like, oh, this is a cool tool. But then they figured out that if you hit the rock in just the right way, the piece that falls off makes an even better tool. It took us like 2.5. Yeah,
this.
exactly.
You make an arrowhead.
And from that point on, like I got to work at a place called Chez Pinot Jonzac in southern France for a summer, and it was a Neanderthal site. And we found these. Actually, it's pretty funny because when we first got there, these tools called MTA hand axes, Musterian, and it was Schulian tradition hand axes. And there were only 8 found in all of Europe. And they said, if you guys find one of these, we'll buy you all the beer and all the cognac you can drink. So we're in the cognac region of France. And we found one like the 4th or 5th day. We went on to find 7 more over the course of that week. We doubled the number of these things in existence
Wow.
in all of Europe. And they were not lying. They bought us so many damn beers. Like archaeologists like to drink. You know,
I'm
that's,
sure.
we dig and it's boring as hell. You know,
Yeah.
it's not Indiana Jones. We're not running around banging hot chicks and flying on planes. We're like, we got a spoon and we're doing this for 8 hours. So, yeah, I actually found the last one on the last day and it was by far the worst one. Like I had to argue that it should even count as one of these. But yeah, no, it was a cool site. So yeah, they were doing well, but we were doing better. We came in and replaced them.
Something happened where we replaced them.
Yeah.
But the point is, as time goes on, humans today are probably the most feeble version of humans that have ever existed.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
And we're the most feeble versions of people that have existed within the last century, right? Like if you go back to humans from the 1920s versus humans from the 2020s, people have way less testosterone now, way higher instances of miscarriages, way lower sperm count. You know, there's a lot of factors that are at play right now that are changing what a human is. And if you extrapolate, if you look at the future, you would naturally say, well, we're probably going to be very thin. It seems like there's at least some sort of a push to eliminate gender. Like gender seems like it's on the table as whether or not it's even necessary. There's all sorts of new technological innovations that are leading to the possibility, at least sometime in the future, of an artificial womb. There's genetic engineering with CRISPR and a lot of other different technologies that are being explored that we might be able to engineer human beings and then even create a complete individual human being without a mother, without a father. So if you thought about what that looks like in the future, like one of our problems on this planet is we all have different ideologies, different religions, come from different parts of the world. We look different. And human beings as tribal primates have a tendency to other. We other different tribes. Those are not us. We are us. Those are the enemy. We go out.
You rally around it.
But if everybody's exactly the same and we share one mind, you know, then a lot of our problems go away.
Yeah.
If we no longer have to compete for resources, we no longer have the desire to procreate and to acquire land and to be, you know, to have a territory, we eliminate a lot of our issues. And that's what these things look like. When you look at the archetypal, these iconic sort of shapes that have been on cave walls all the way up to Close Encounters of the Third Kind, one thing they share is that they have no muscle, they have large heads, they have big eyes.
And they're childlike. They're very paedomorphic, as we say. Yeah, you just tied together like a lot of really important points related to this theory. Aspects of why they're always interested in our gametes, why they come back and put that little machine on a man to collect semen, why they're constantly taking eggs from females and implanting fetuses, pulling them back out later. Like they're clearly focused on reproduction, gamete extraction, And one of the things that might be fueling that in the future, if these are future humans, let's just assume for a second, hypothetically, is that they might be having problems directly resulting from these trends toward self-domestication, these trends toward feminization, these trends toward reduced sperm counts, which is 60% across most populations of the world, in the industrialized world, 50% across the entire world. Problems with reproduction, in vitro fertilization, exogenesis chambers might help solve some of those problems, growing the fetus outside of the body. So yeah, and like you said, what do they look like? They look like kind of a hybrid between males and females to some extent, but there's still an essence of gender. Like if you talk to Whitley Strieber, he's with this being, he says in communion that I had a sense that she was a woman. I don't know why, but I kind of sensed that. So it's almost like the essence of the individual, the soul of the individual still retains that sort of gender identity, even though our bodies are becoming more childlike, more gender indiscriminate. I don't know. But yeah, yet another one of those ways in which we might sort of grow together as a species.
Now, when you say they are extracting sperm, like how many of these stories do you take seriously? There's a lot of these stories.
It's a great question, yeah.
There's unfortunately for any sort of spectacular public thing that's in the zeitgeist, like alien abduction, whether it's Whitley Strieber from Communion or the John Mack books, the guy from Harvard that wrote, what was it, Abduction?
Passport to the Cosmos and Abduction, yeah. Two great books.
Great books, but these are all books about encounters, close encounters of the third kind with some sort of a being from another place. Whatever it is, it's just not a human being, and it seems to be technologically at least superior to us.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems to be one thing they all seem to share is they seem to be able to communicate telekinetically or telepathically.
Yeah, and I mean, they aren't human, but they are very human too. So for instance, like that's one of the main reasons I started exploring this. I was actually kind of put into this when I was 8 or 9 years old, sort of activated in a way and put on this path by a weird thing that happened to me when I was a kid.
What happened to you?
Well, so I talk about it in my first 2 books, Identified Flying Objects and the Extraterrestrial Model, where I learned about a close encounter that my dad had. He was a veterinarian in Northeast Ohio where I grew up. And he was out one night on a call with another guy. So there's 2 people. As far as Jalen Hynek's reliability scale, it has more reliability because there's multiple witnesses. It's also strange on his scale because they crested the hill. There's a bright light. This is an Amish country. There's no lights in Amish country. And all of a sudden, this bright light darts toward them, hovers just above their truck, darts back to where it was, and straight up into space, like at incredible speed. So this happened before I was born, but I overheard him telling this story to some friends one night. He got Whitley Strieber's book Communion, as most people did in the 1980s, and as they should, because it's a great book. And I walked into the living room. The book is sitting on the shelf facing out. And I remember, like it was yesterday, I sort of stopped, and there was like this light, like a white light. And then I saw this image in my mind of like an early hominin, chimpanzee-like creature, a modern human, and then that archetypal gray alien from the cover with this information. What if they're related? What if they are us from the future? And obviously, I mean, that's why I became a biological anthropologist. People are always like,
so you saw this?
Yeah. It was like a flash, like a light. And, it's weird looking back on it because I know a lot more about these experiences. I've talked to people that have had these types of experiences.
What was the setting?
It was our living room. So it was like you come in the front door and just to the left there's this living room, built-in bookshelf, Whitley's books right there. I just turned the corner, saw it, and then like just kind of it just came. Like I didn't know shit about evolutionary biology.
When
I
you
didn't
say
know
you
about
saw
UFOs.
it, like you saw it how?
In my mind. Just this white light.
Just an image.
And that image of the 3 faces. And then the question, could they be us from the future? And a lot of people are like, how'd you get into UFOs? Like, you're a biological anthropologist. It's the opposite. I got into biological anthropology to research this question of whether they could be us from the future.
Huh. So this you felt like at that moment it wasn't just like a weird thought or a dream. It felt like a message. Like, what did it feel like?
Yeah. It was a tasking. You know, I think Rupert Sheldrake said it that people don't have ideas. Ideas have people. I think that was like hey, go do this thing. And I did. That's why we're here now talking about it. And obviously, you know, you got to be careful about like selection bias and confirmation bias. Like I didn't go into this. I didn't go into grad school. I also didn't tell anybody in grad school I was there because they would have kicked me out. But I went into it with an open mind, but I was there to study these things because of that event when I was 8 years old.
Wow. Yeah, it is a problem, the confirmation bias. It is a problem with wanting it to be real. And I struggle with that because I desperately want it to be real. And so every time I talk to someone, you know, I've talked to a bunch of people that are, you know, air quote, whistleblowers. And some of them, I think, for sure, have been sent in here to distribute disinformation.
Yeah, no doubt.
For sure, because it's a great place to do it.
Yeah.
I'll listen to you.
Yeah.
I'll entertain almost anything.
Which is great. We need that.
Yeah.
You know? But yeah, I mean, obviously there's people that are going to take advantage of it.
But
too.
I think it's also important for me to say I'm not convinced. I don't know how much of this is horseshit, but it's not zero. My question about that mummy is not that it's an alien, but if it does register as human in the DNA, is it potentially a different kind of human than us?
Well, certainly we brought in an expert in South American indigenous people genetics, and the analysis showed that the standard genetic mutations that are found in different racial groups around the world matched exactly the Atacama region of Chile. So her parents, her relatives were clearly Chilean. So yeah, I mean that's really all you can say. If someone wants to say that she's an alien, well, that's fine. I'm convinced of what she is and that she deserves a proper burial.
And so it's just a genetic anomaly.
Just a genetic anomaly.
I do know that you've paid attention to the tridactyl mummies.
Yeah.
What is your take on that?
So, you know, I think people have conflated a lot of the different mummies that are out there, first of all. There's like
a good point.
60 of them or something. And probably a fair number of them, I wouldn't necessarily call them hoaxes. I would say that they are constructed. But they're old constructs, so maybe there's some sort of homage paid to the ancestors or something like that, whatever they are. So there are some ones that you clearly look at, you go, oh, come on.
Right.
That never lived. You know, that's.
Then there's the fetal position
Then there's
ones.
the fetal position ones, the big ones.
Yeah.
And I was at the beginning, I'm always open to being wrong. I was at the beginning thinking, oh, well, because of the small ones, those are probably not real. But then the MRIs started coming out.
Yeah.
The full body MRIs and the ligature and the bone construction and the finger, and then perhaps most, I think, extraordinarily, the fingerprints on them being clearly not human. So it's interesting, but here's the problem: is that because there's so much circus around them, unfortunately created by people who want a circus because it sells their TV shows, no scientist of any merit would go near it. So I was approached many times to study them. And I said, I'll do it on one condition. Here's the money I need, not personally, but here's the money I need to do the kinds of analysis to accomplish this right. Second, there will be no TV cameras. And you won't hear from me again until I'm ready to talk, because I'll have double-checked and triple-checked and quadruple-checked the results, and then I'll have gone out, as I did with the Atacama mummy, bringing in further contiguous circles of experts to double-check me.
And not make it a circus.
Because I won't name the TV show that wanted to do it, but they wanted to follow me around with a camera. And I'm like, no, this isn't how science is done.
Right.
I can't do it with those strictures. So I would say that if anybody's going to do it again, lock the things away with South American scientists. You don't need a North American scientist to come in and do it. There's plenty of smart people in South America who can do this properly and respect the rights of the indigenous peoples who own the sacred grounds within which these things were found. I think that's important. And then do the analysis right. They made, I think, the mistake of saying, well, we've done the DNA and there's a lot of DNA that doesn't match. Anything, and the stuff is several hundred years old, anything that old, you won't get a lot of good DNA out of it. But they did the same thing with the Denisovan and the Neanderthal. You have to correct the chemical errors that occur over time. There are ways to what's called bioinformatically correct. You need to do what's called overreading of the genome, where you do so many reads of it that you stack them all up line by line. Like if you had 1,000 versions of an ancient Bible, you would stack up the lines one by one, and finally you find one line that has this letter, that's correct, and then this one correct, and then you basically do a summation of an averaging of the correctness. And so they say, oh, well, there's 90% of the genome is non-human. It's probably garbage. It's probably these mistakes. It's probably bacterial contamination that you're reading. There's ways to deal with that, but that requires money and not one-off DNA sequences put on the interwebs for some amateur genomicist to make a claim about.
Right.
So there's ways to do it. I mean, you would want, at the end of the day, to get the results to the level where you could go to the guys who did the Denisovan and the Neanderthal DNA, the Max Planck and others who won the Nobel Prize for it, and say, hey, what do you think? But you don't dare take it to people like that until you've done your homework.
I see. Yeah.
Right. And you do it behind the scenes. You don't put them under a flashlight.
Right.
And people, I think, have gotten used to this click mentality of impatience where I want the result today. Why can't you just make it all transparent? Dump all the data on the web tomorrow. You're not transparent. You're hiding something. No, I'm not. I am just trying to make sure that you don't make the mistake and accuse me of making the mistake that you'll find in the data, because the raw data is never clean.
In the Daily Mail headline.
In the Daily Mail
it's
headline.
Never accurate.
So, long story short, I think there's still something worth looking at there.
Well, the scans are fascinating, right?
Yeah, the scans are the most interesting to me.
Have you seen the Jesse Michaels, the newest video?
Yeah, Jesse's a good friend.
He's great. I love that guy. And the episode that he did is fantastic. And when you see the scans and they go over the bone structure of the thing and you look at it, you're like, God, that looks real. Yeah. If that's a hoax from 1,700 years ago or
exactly,
yeah, whoever, if the carbon isotope dating that they did on it is accurate.
I've looked at that data. It looks good.
Okay. So then it is that old. Fuck you then.
Yeah.
Because there's no way someone back then could fake that.
And somebody asked me the other day, they said, well, could you have a single mutation or a set of, I said, no. I mean, because you don't get one mutation that does all that.
Right.
Evolution works step by step, that this does this, but it has a mistake, but it's corrected by this mutation over here in evolution, which is corrected by this. And so the genome fluctuates over time, compensating for the errors that would otherwise have killed you.
Also, one of them is pregnant.
That's fast. Yeah, I know.
Okay, so it's a 3-foot pregnant thing that doesn't look remotely human being.
Yeah. So the jury is still out.
Right.
But if they're going to do it right, they need to sequester the stuff away, bring in the right people with sufficient resources, and get rid of the cameras.
Have you talked to them? Have you encouraged this? Is it possible to nudge this in the right direction? And where's it at right now?
I wrote out on Twitter a full thing of what they needed to do. I mean, the easiest first milestone to do, to be honest, that could be done within a couple of months, is if it is somewhere in the hominid or, let's say, vertebrate line, there are metabolism genes that we all share. In fact, there are metabolism genes that we share with bacteria that are very similar. So do you know the technique called polymerase chain reaction, PCR?
Yes.
So, why try to do the whole genome? Why not just target a bunch of genes that we know evolve slowly, but do evolve, and PCR those out. Because that's easier to do than is trying to assemble a whole genome. And then by having just those, let's call it preliminary sets of evidence, you could then say, this actually reproducibly, if I take a sample from the finger, I take a sample from the bone marrow, I take a sample from here or there on the body, and I take a sample from the 3 different main things, and I see the same mutations, and they're different or somehow aligned with hominid evolution, right? We compare it to all the known hominids. I mean, that would be the kind of data that you could actually publish in a journal like Nature if you did it right. Because that's the only way that you're going to get anybody to pay attention.
There's also the bizarre anecdotal nature of some of the artwork. Like the fact that these people did a lot of these tapestries and a lot of ancient artwork that's 1,000 years old that depicts these 3-fingered things. So it's like, what are they describing? Are they describing these actual creatures? That there were only a few of them and it was a weird genetic mutation? Or is this a common visitor that they're describing?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
I mean, why would you put them in a cave in Peru? I don't know.
And if you didn't put them in a cave in Peru, what would be left? That's the problem. The problem is it's really hard to make a fossil. It's really hard to find bones. You know, think about all the people that died.
Right.
And we don't find that many bones, relatively speaking, in comparison to the fucking billions of people that died.
Right.
It's not like we're tripping over human bones every day.
Right. Except in mass graves.
Yeah. Right. That's really And even in mass graves, given enough time, they will deteriorate. Like mass graves from 1,000, 1,700 years ago, whatever these things are.
So, I find them interesting, and I hope that behind the scenes there are people who are taking a more methodical approach to this, who I think should remain stealthed until they have the data to the point where it is publishable.
They can publish. Yeah.
Publishing a white paper or putting something out on the internet is not the same as putting out data that has all of the instruments that you used, the methods that you used, et cetera. The reason you want papers, frankly, when you publish them, to be almost boring and so thick with detail that no pseudo-skeptic would dare approach it because they're just not smart enough. But if you put out these snippets that don't have sufficient background, they can be picked apart by anybody. Right? But that's why peer review is so important. And people mistake peer review as trying to get the reviewers to agree with your conclusions. No, the main purpose of peer review is actually to make sure that the methods that you used are sufficiently detailed and are correct enough to the extent you came to any conclusions, they match the methods that you used.
And when you think about these potential, whatever they are, whatever these creatures are, if we did find out that they are some sort of a hominid, how much credence do you give to the theory that there's like the possibility that these UFOs, UAPs, whatever it is a break-off civilization from a very, very long time ago that's very different from us, just same way we're very different from chimpanzees, which we coexist with.
Right. I have no problem conjecturing that. Did you ever see the Netflix show Chimp Empire?
Yes.
Amazing, right?
Amazing.
20 million years of separation, and it looked like fucking faculty meeting. With people like looking at each other and planning and plotting, board meeting, and so we shared all of those interactions from 20 million years ago. So how much further back would you have to go to have something like what that is? I mean, it's clearly not recent.
And also, if you think about what we are in comparison to chimps, we're so fragile, we're frail, we're easily injured, well, if you think of something that's far more technologically advanced than us, it would be even more frail. It would be even more petite. It would have almost no muscle at all. It would look weirdly enough, like the Greys from Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Like,
Yeah.
that's what it would look like if it was a hominid that's whatever we are, and it went way past that.
Right. Yeah, no, technology gives evolution the excuse to no longer make or allow for you to be
Robust.
Robust. Thank you.
Yeah,
That was
and
the word
also,
I'm looking for.
why do you need opposable thumbs?
Yeah.
Right? These things don't even have opposable thumbs.
That was what's weird about it. It's
Right.
like, how do you interact with your environment? They look more like sloths than they
Right,
do.
right. Yeah.
I mean, at least their hands do.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I find it.
Well, if everything's done with AI and automation,
Mm-hmm.
and your interface is purely neurological,
Mm-hmm.
like so you have some sort of a human or a creature neuro interface with technology, and you just use fingers to like lay them on electronics so that
Mm-hmm.
you can sync up with it.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Why
Well,
not?
why are you picking things up, bro? You don't have to pick things up anymore. Those go away just like,
I mean, it's almost doesn't always kind of seem like the most boring possible solution is usually the right one. It's like,
Yeah.
what's the most boring thing? The most boring thing is nothing's happening, but you're imagining the dog is somehow
Yeah.
has
That's-
a telepathic link to you.
Occam's razor, right?
Yeah, Occam's the simplest, but it's also the most boring. Like, these crazy fucking UFOs. I'm sorry if you've talked about this a bunch on the podcast, but the UFOs that we're seeing, that the Navy is releasing these videos of these Tic Tacs zipping around, and it's Navy pilots. It's not the people we interviewed in that show. It's Navy pilots who are like, yeah, I don't know what the fuck this is, and I have great conversations with Uber drivers, and like we were talking about it, and this guy was like, and a lot of them are programmers and shit, and this guy was like, it's probably it's a glitch in the type of radar they're using. I think it must be a glitch. I mean, that's the most likely reality. They're not seeing it with their own eyes.
They're not?
I don't think so. I think they're just picking it up on radar, and so he's like, maybe it's a glitch, or maybe it's like,
We should find that out. Can you Google if the pilots were picking it up on radar? The pilot spotted UFO to see if because I know some guys have spotted things with their own eyes.
Okay.
I know for sure some guys have.
I'm not sure if the data set. I think
it's probably relevant to the conversation, though. It's probably a
Yeah.
good thing that we know. People listening going, yeah, what the fuck? I get super skeptical. I feel like almost like it's a plot. I don't want to go full Eddie Bravo, but I feel like when I see people talking about UFOs, I'm like, okay, what else is going on? What are you distracting me from? Mm-hmm. Is this really a big issue? I was like, is it really happening? Well, can I see it? What do you got? Got nothing? Oh, you got like some radar. You got radar from 1, 2 pilots, 3 pilots. Okay, I believe it, but I want to see more. Why do I want to see more? Like, what am I? And you'll get caught up in it. It'll chew up hours of your day.
Yeah, man.
There's a lot of those guys that we ran into on that show. I felt bad for them because they didn't understand what had happened to them. They had gotten caught in this weird loop of looking for secrets and looking for mysteries to be solved and looking for hidden conspiracies, and they get caught in that. And some of that shit is real, which is part of the problem. Some of it you can come across, the Gulf of Tonkin and the Northwoods, Operation Northwoods. You can come across a bunch of them that are real and raw, and you can see how they put that together. You're like, what? You could see real crazy conspiring.
Yeah.
And then you can get lost and think it's everywhere.
That's right. Yeah. Well, I mean, this is like, dude, I was just.
What is this, Jamie? Oh, according to Day, the AAVs. What does that mean?
Is that the
Is that
new
a new
UFO?
word? How about you say UFO? You fucks.
Come on. Yeah. Are we really going to change UFO?
They have their own little thing. We're AAVs. We don't refer to us as UFOs. These are my pronouns. The AAVs appeared at an altitude greater than 80,000 feet, far higher than commercial or military jets typically fly. Initially, the Princeton's radar team.
It's a radar, really high process, or Prince Story is what it's called. It's like a really high processing radar system or something.
Why is it spelled Princeton? If it's Prince story.
Yeah, no, it is Princeton. It's just that apostrophe is in a weird spot.
Oh, okay. The radar team didn't believe what they were seeing, chalking up the anomalies to an equipment malfunction. But after they determined that everything was operating as it should, they began detecting instances which the AAVs, I want to know what the fuck that means, dropped with astounding speed to lower, busier airspace. Day approached the Princeton's commander about taking action. He said, I was chomping at the bit. I really wanted to intercept these things. What?
Yeah.
That's we have the fucking craziest people in this country.
I know.
Like there's an alien, man. I want to chase it. I want to catch it by the tail.
Motherfucker. I was
catch it by the tail.
Put it in a fucking
Anomalous aerial vehicles. Get the
come on,
fuck out
you
of here.
dick.
There's already a name for it.
Whoever invented that new name is an ass.
He's an asshole.
Give us a break.
I was actually the one who decided to call them AAVs.
Oh, come on.
Technically, it's not an unidentified flying object.
You're not taking our fucking UFOs, man. I'm going to fight that.
What is it again? What is the exact phrase?
Anomalous aerial vehicle.
Anomalous aerial vehicle.
It's an AAV.
You're an asshole.
Yeah.
Anomalous. It's an anomaly.
I want to propose a new name for UFOs. Anonymous aerial vehicles.
It's probably a part of $1 billion study. Two fighters were diverted to intercept one of the strange objects. When they first arrived on the scene, the pilots didn't see any flying objects, but they did observe what the lead pilot, Commander David Fravor, later referred to as a disturbance in the ocean. The water was churning with white waves breaking over what looked like a large object just under the surface.
Yeah.
Then they noticed one of the objects flying about 50 feet above the water. Fravor, the commander of the elite Black Aces Squadron, this is a goddamn Nicolas Cage movie, who is a Top Gun program graduate with more than 16 years of flying experience, described it as about 40 feet long, shaped like a Tic Tac candy, with no obvious means of propulsion. It's white. It has no wings. It has no rotors. I go, holy shit, what is that?
Dude, you know the guy, whoever the company is that makes Tic Tacs, they're like, yes, they're calling them Tic Tacs. It's free publicity.
Totally. Tic Tacs is the one sponsoring this whole deal.
You think it is?
Yeah, man. People are buying Tic Tacs right now. Listen to this. You just say Tic Tac enough. You're like, you remember those old subliminal things you used to do in movie theaters when you're watching a movie and it would say hungry, eat popcorn. Like every 100th frame they would stick like hungry, eat popcorn. They would put subliminal text on the screen. You'd be like, damn, I want some popcorn. If you just say Tic Tacs, people are buying Tic Tacs right now.
Well, we do know that pilot's got great breath, right? I mean, that's a Tic Tac man. If the first time you see a UFO, the first thing that pops into your head is it looks like a mint. That's nuts. There had to be other ways to describe it.
He's got stock in Tic Tacs, bro, for sure.
I Googled Tic Tac after he said that because I couldn't remember if they were square or if they were They
look like I would expect a good UFO to look like.
Yeah. Kind of boring.
Yeah. Like super Apple, like if Apple made a UFO.
Yeah. It's like a pretty sleek.
Yeah.
But going into the ocean part, that's the part I like the best because that kind of lines up with Hollow Earth theory and maybe they're flying down.
They have a base.
Yeah, in the center of the Earth.
Of course they have a base in the Earth. Why wouldn't you have a base in the ocean? We never go there. Do you ever fly over? I was just in Hawaii. You fly over 5 hours of water. It's just water.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's that Strava app thing. I feel like we've talked about literally everything. You know the Strava app?
Don't worry about it.
Okay, good. It's great, man. I love that I have to think I'm pretty sure we've talked about this. The heat maps, the Strava heat maps that seem to show people walking under the ocean and stuff.
Walking?
Yeah. We haven't?
No.
Oh, so yeah, because Strava, it's like I think it was Strava, right? It was like a way for you to track your steps. And some people apparently were in some bases in the Arctic or in the ocean walking around. And it showed up before they could turn that function off for top secret facilities, like the places they blur out on Google Maps.
So do you think there's a military base under the water somewhere where submarines go?
God, man, I want to think that, but I'm
always... Like in that movie, The Meg?
Yeah, I think it's probably a technical error, but fuck, maybe. I mean... I don't know. It's like the implication of these Tic Tacs and all of it, if you really want to the first, to me, the most obvious one, minus the churning water evidence, is that it's some kind of equipment malfunction.
Well, it's also that they have an unlimited budget for black ops.
Yeah.
We don't know what that number is.
That's right.
We don't get to know.
Yeah.
Right? All that weird shit they do when they're making stealth bombers and all that Area 51 stuff.
Yeah.
Like, how much money goes to that? Like, what is the number? Like, let's Google this. How much does the U.S. spend on black ops?
I was going to bring this up in the middle of what you guys are talking. There's a program here that was going on. The AATIP, Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, was going on and had a
Just
budget.
the AA tip.
Yeah.
I'm going to fuck you out of your money, but I'm just going to use the AA tip.
$22 million is what their budget was in 2012, and this said
a lot
that
of money.
doesn't still go on, but apparently it does. Luis Elizondo says it was still operating, and he is part of.
So
To the
they
Stars.
spent $22 million to see if the UFOs were a threat.
A year.
And then
I
there's the
guess.
To the Stars Academy.
Yeah.
That's
where he is now.
Tom DeLonge stuff.
Yeah. So
Well.
some of it's still going on.
Listen, I'm fucking rooting for it. I want it to be real. I would love it if it was real.
Just to give you an example, in my book, I talk about Winston Churchill. Winston Churchill in 1939 wrote an essay about the fact that there could be life on other planets, around other stars, and that we should search for it. Now, he didn't have a chance to publish it because he became prime minister and then had to fight the Second World War against the Nazi regime. So much money was wasted in that war. If that money was allocated to the search for extraterrestrial life, the way that Churchill envisioned it before the war, we might have known the answer by now. And what I'm saying is, this is just an example for how non-intelligent we are. We are not working together towards a better future. We're fighting each other. And that's the answer to your question, that we might not live very long.
But you're saying this as you work at Harvard and as you're writing books on extraterrestrial objects.
Right.
I don't necessarily agree with you. I think there are massive problems with people, but I think we are far better than the human beings that lived 2,000 years ago in that regard. And I think that we will probably be looking back on this day and age and mocking how stupid we are when we are more advanced 2,000
I
years from
really
today.
hope so, and that's what I'm
I
trying
think
to...
we're moving in that direction.
Well, that's what I'm trying to promote, but I'm not necessarily
I think
as
our
optimistic
cake-
as you are.
I think our cake is still in the oven.
Let's
That's
hope
what I
so.
think. That's what I
I
think.
really want that future. But, I'm doing my best, but you can see from the pushback,
Yes.
to which I don't have access because I'm not, I don't have an account on the social media.
Congratulations again for that. I think that's. I think we're moving. I think there's conflict, but I think for whatever reason, the way human beings operate, we oftentimes need conflict in order to make improvements.
Right.
We need a yin and a yang. We need a give and a pull. If we don't have that, we get complacent.
Why
get
can't we understand
lackadaisical.
the best path forward without... it's just like using a GPS system and it says recalculating.
Yes.
Every time we have a crisis, recalculating. So we recalculate our next move based on all the mistakes we've made. Why can't we be smart in the first place?
I think we have biological limitations that are based on our ancestry. And our
Yes,
ancestry is
I agree
filled
with
with tribalism
agree
and
with that.
chaos, and we're primates. I mean, that's
agree with
part of the problem. And I think that our issue with racism is the same issue that we have when we have religious discrimination or cultural discrimination. It's tribalism.
I agree.
And we are, it's wired into our DNA.
Now, my problem is, why couldn't science, given that, there are billions of Earth-Sun systems within just the Milky Way galaxy, and then 1 trillion galaxies like the Milky Way in the observable volume of the universe, why can't the mainstream of astronomy simply say, conservatively, just assuming the most conservative, not speculative assumption, conservatively, we are at the middle of the road, kind of life. It's very likely that we're not unique and special. And let's just look for evidence, search for it. Why should there be a taboo on discussing this subject? That makes no sense. For example, astronomers are now contemplating new telescopes of the future that will cost billions of dollars to taxpayers, okay? That would search for oxygen in the atmospheres of other planets around other stars, because oxygen could be indicative of life, microbial life. I say, it will never be conclusive, such a search, even if it costs billions of dollars, because the Earth, for 2 billion years, the first 2 billion years of the Earth's history, didn't have much oxygen in its atmosphere. There were microbes, but the oxygen level was quite low. And then it suddenly rose after 2 billion years, half of its life. So not finding oxygen doesn't mean there is no life. And then if you find oxygen, it can be produced by many natural processes like breaking water molecules or other things. So it will never be conclusive. How can you make a conclusive statement if you find industrial pollution in the same atmosphere? You just search for CFCs. These are the molecules produced by refrigerating systems, by industries. If you find evidence for that, there is no way that nature can make these very complex molecules naturally. So I say to the mainstream of astronomy, use the same instruments and motivate them by this question of can we detect industrial pollution? And I wrote a paper about it. And the thing is, the public is extremely interested in this question. And the public funds science. So how can the scientific community shy away from a question that it can address with existing technology, when the public is very interested in that? How can there be a taboo on this question? That's the thing that really puzzles me. Now, I wasn't working in this area until the last 5 years or so. I was working in studying black holes, studying the universe, and I came across a number of ideas that led me into this rabbit hole, into this subject. Now I'm about to publish this book at a popular level, but also a textbook 6 months later that describes all the science that we have related to the search for life outside Earth, far from Earth. And I'm just amazed that it's not part of the mainstream. It's really surprising to me, and I think it's inappropriate because you look at physics, theoretical physics, there are lots of speculative ideas in it. Like people talk about extra dimensions, the multiverse, supersymmetry, superstring theory. All of these have no evidence to their credit. There is no experimental test, not even thought about, like in the next decade, the next 2 decades. But these ideas are part of the mainstream. So you see physicists giving each other awards and doing intellectual gymnastics, just demonstrating that they are smart. And to me, that's an unhealthy situation in physics. You can do it in mathematics where it's completely detached from any application to reality. But in physics, we are supposed to describe reality. And yet you have these intellectual... So it's as if the physics community, some parts of it, decided that the most important task is to demonstrate that you're smart. And that is really strange to me because, we're supposed to understand nature, not show that we are smart.
But I mean, again, how do these systems really work? So this is my kind of conspiracy detection kit. The grander the conspiracy theory, the less likely it is to be true. Like say Volkswagen cheating the emission standards in Europe. That's a very specific conspiracy theory. Turned out to be true. They really did do that, and for obvious reasons, profit motive, right? But so if you scale up from that, they're trying to control the entire European economy or something like. Well, no, that's too big.
They're just trying to make money.
They're just trying to make money, right? So, the more people that have to be involved, the more elements that have to come. People are incompetent. People can't keep their mouth shut.
For the most part.
For the most part, yes. Now, to be fair to the other side, if you read about the development of the U-2 spy plane and the AR-71 Blackbird, this was done in Burbank, where you used to live. And that's right in the heart of L.A. How did they do this for all those years and nobody knew about it, right?
Well, they were acting on the interests of the government. They were trying to be patriots. They kept their mouth shut because they were trying to win a war against the evil others.
Right. So, again, like with the recent UAP sightings, what I want, my initial response is the SR-71 Blackbird was, before it was declassified, they were commercial pilots going, oh my God, there's something
Right.
going 3,000 miles an hour, 50,000 feet above me at 30,000 feet. This is impossible. We don't have anything like that. Well, actually, we did have something like that.
Yeah,
So I
so
suspect that
that's what you think the
some of these
UAPs
UAP, I think in a decade or two, we're going to find out, oh, we had these incredible drones
Yeah.
that could fly at these speeds. And,
I tend to lean towards that as well sometimes. I go back and forth with it. I had Ryan Graves on
yeah,
recently.
I saw that.
It was a fascinating conversation because the way he was describing things with no visible means of propulsion, no technology that we currently know is available could act in the way those things were acting. I wonder if that is what it is, if they have some sort of a very advanced drones. And the fact that they seem to be transmedium, they seem to be able to enter into the ocean and then leave the ocean. I wonder if that's something that we have, because these things, they're, one of the ones that he described is like a translucent circle with a black sphere inside of it.
Yes, right.
And that when they updated their radar systems in 2014, they started seeing them all over the place on their systems. And that these people spotted them visually, and that they were behaving in a way like at 130 mile an hour winds were completely stationary. I wonder if those are super advanced drones.
Yeah, another problem with these videos is that they're very grainy, blurry. You can't quite make out what's going on. Like the one that it looks like it goes in the ocean, comes back out. It's not clear that it goes in the ocean because the horizon in the ocean is so blurry, right? So I'm a member of this Galileo project at Harvard, run by Avi Loeb, the head of the astronomy department.
I had
there.
Avi on.
Yep, I know.
Yeah.
And he's raising money to put cameras, high resolution cameras, all over the world,
Right.
particularly in the places where people like Graves say when Graves told you, we saw these things every day, it's like every day.
Yeah.
There surely must be high resolution photos
But
of these things.
those jets are not designed to take high resolution video. They're designed to fight against enemy jets.
Right.
That's what they're designed for. They're designed to recognize these enemy combatants and engage with them in the most effective way possible. That's not with high resolution digital video.
Right. Well, that would be the solution. We just need better data. Right.
Well, I wonder if they want better data. Now, let's assume.
We do.
The government, but listen, the federal government.
yeah,
Imagine they are running top secret programs using advanced drones and a technology that we're not currently aware of, right? And that the United States government has these. They wouldn't want people taking videos of these things. Why would they?
Right, but everyone has one of these in their pocket. I mean,
Yeah, but you
why
can't
don't we
get
have
digital video of something that's 7 miles away moving at, the speed of sound.
Well,
You're
that's-
not going to get digital video
That's
of that.
what we want to do with the Galileo project. Is
And
get
according
those
to
cameras up there.
Christopher Mellon, a guy who did work for the Defense Department, he said there are top secret videos and photographs that he's seen or that he's aware of that are pretty spectacular that they don't understand.
Right, I've heard him say that. It's like, okay, then let's see them. Well,
Yeah,
we
but
can't.
why
All right.
would they
Right,
release
right.
that? This
Yeah.
is the question. Is like if they, just like the Blackbird, just like the stealth bomber, many of the other projects that they have that were top secret before they became public. Why would they release all that information? if
Probably
it's-
wouldn't. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I wonder what that stuff is. And the fact that it happens so often in that very specific area, who knows?
Another thing I was thinking about with the UAPs is in the history of technology, no nation gets very far ahead of any other nation.
Right.
They either back engineer it or copy it or steal the secrets and so on. It's not likely we would have anything that the Russians and Chinese wouldn't be pretty close to having also. Just think of just the development of jets.
Or the development of the nuclear bomb.
The nuclear bomb. I mean, the Russians had, so 1945 was Hiroshima, and 1949 the Russians, they stole our secrets, right? So this idea that, these are super advanced drones that we have and the Russians and Chinese don't have, it's not likely they would not know the technology that we know, the physics, the aerodynamics, and the engineering and all that, because they read the same journals. They do the same research we do.
So what do you think it is?
Well, I think it's probably multiple things. I think some of them might be drones that just really high-tech drones. Some of them are just blurry videos that are. I think the one of the sphere inside the cube
The cube inside the sphere.
is probably a balloon.
A balloon?
Yes.
A balloon that stands stationary at 130 mile an hour winds?
Appears to stand stationary.
Appears with the most sophisticated tracking devices that these military jets have.
I know. These are anomalies. Yeah. So we just need better
But
data.
why would you think it's a balloon?
Well, what else would it be? Okay, it might be, it might be a drone. It's certainly, probably not an alien spacecraft, and so on.
Certainly, probably not. Why do you say that?
Because this is kind of gets into the argument of the SETI program.
Yeah.
There's so much empty space out there. The chances of them finding us are pretty slim. I
Really?
separate.
But we
two
find
questions.
planets all the time.
Yeah, but
We are
telescopes, not
right.
visiting.
Telescopes and satellites
Right.
and all sorts of things that we send into space. But we find planets all the time that are in the Goldilocks zone, and we have
I
a
think-
very relatively unsophisticated in terms of like what we'd expect from something that's capable of intergalactic travel. Relatively simple technology in comparison to what we would think if you took what we have today and you increased our capabilities, 1,000 years from now. You could imagine that it would
Yes.
be quite easy for someone to at least send a drone from another planet to visit Earth and observe.
This is the Fermi paradox.
Yes.
Yeah, that you know of. And where are they? Well, of course, most scientists like him don't think they're here. So I separate two
Most
questions.
scientists?
Most scientists.
Michio Kaku thinks they're here.
He's been a little fuzzy about that. He's not totally committed to that.
He's totally committed. He
you
was
think so?
here. He was here, and he talked about it on the podcast. He said for the longest time he was a skeptic.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Okay, he has kind of come down on that side a little
But
bit.
why would you be firm on that? When you think about the fact that there's hundreds of billions
Okay,
of
hang on.
galaxies in the known universe.
Yes. Let's separate two questions. Are
Okay.
they out there? Have they come here? Are they out there? Almost certainly.
Right.
I would say 99.9% they're out there.
I would agree with you.
100 billion stars in our galaxy, 100 billion to
Sure.
a trillion galaxies. Just do the numbers.
Yeah.
No matter how improbable it is, you get from bacteria to big brains and civilization, it's going to happen.
Right.
But
But-
have they come here? Okay, so how good is the evidence for that? Not very. It's pretty thin, right?
How
It's
good-
It's
how much-
anecdotal. It's human eyewitnesses. It's blurry videos, grainy photos. If they were here, damn it. Where's pick up the widget on the dashboard and bring it back here.
But just looking at what we know that these fighter pilots have witnessed, the data that they've acquired, when they're looking at something like Commander David Fravor, who, when they were off the coast of the Nimitz, when they tracked that thing that went from above 60,000 feet above sea level to 50 feet above sea level in less than a second. What's that?
I don't know.
Yeah, what is that
Nobody-
thing that they have
nobody's telling us.
they have visual contact by multiple sources, and they tracked it, and they have video of this thing moving off at insane rates of speed. What's that?
Yeah, I don't know. This is the problem with anomalies. No
But if
theory
there-
explains everything, right?
But if there was any evidence that pointed to something that operated in a way that we can't comprehend any of the known technologies being able to reproduce, that's one of them.
But no technologies come out of a vacuum like that. They always build on previous technologies.
Right, but if you're talking about something from another planet
Well, okay.
or something from another
Right.
another civilization that we're not aware of that's on Earth, maybe that lives in the water, we don't know. We don't know. And when you're seeing these things, when you're talking about people that are the best fighter pilots that we have available, that are operating with the most sophisticated fighter jets, with tracking systems that are constantly being updated, and then when they update them, they start picking up these things, like Ryan Graves discussed on the podcast. Why would you think that those are not possibly something from somewhere else?
It depends on how you want to pose the problem. So here's how I think about it. So I take Leslie Kean's a book on UFOs and pilots and generals go on the record and so on. In that book, she says 90 to 95% of all sightings have perfectly normal explanations.
I would probably agree that's true.
So the question is, what do we do with that other 5% of
Right.
anomalies? Okay, no theory explains everything. There's always going to be anomalies in every scientific theory. What do you do with it? Nothing. You assign it to a graduate student to figure it out, or that's future research. Or, rather than going to a grand theory of visitation by aliens, or the Russians or Chinese have these super advanced technologies that we don't have, or we have them and they don't have. I mean, again, if we had this technology, surely the Russians have something pretty close to that. There's nothing from the videos in Ukraine of any Russian drones that act anything like these UAPs. Surely they would use this technology if they had it.
Well, we're assuming that those UAPs are military in nature and not something that they use to observe things.
Could be.
I mean, why would we assume that these things, if they're capable of behaving in this way and they're just some sort of a device that can travel at insane rates of speed, why would we assume that those things can launch missiles or act in a military capacity?
Right.
And there are UAP sightings over Ukraine.
Yeah, but okay, so Avi did a nice paper on that, showing that these were artillery shells, and not what the other people said they thought it was, that it was like a drone or a plane or something weird like that. He showed that if it was what they thought it would have had a much bigger impact going through the atmosphere at that speed and burning up. But it didn't, so these are artillery shells. Anyway, he did a nice paper on that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So, but what about these things that supposedly move far faster than the speed of sound without the sonic boom?
Yeah, how is that possible?
How is that possible?
That's right, it's not.
That's
So
where it gets weird.
That's where it gets weird, right?
But
So
that's where
is it
the
really
question
moving?
is it hours?
Is it really moving at that speed, or is it a misperception of the video, a miscalculation? Scientists make miscalculations of these sorts of things all the time.
Yeah, that was one of the things that was posed to David Fravor, and he said they have multiple sources of data. It's not just like one system that's monitoring these things. It's multiple systems.
Yeah. No, I follow these guys. I agree. They are incredibly credible, right? And they have good arguments. What do you do with the anomalies?
I think you're an anti-conspiracy theorist. That's what I think.
No, I'm a skeptic, Joe.
I know you are.
I'm just a,
you literally are
I'm just a
the
skeptic.
editor. Or what's your position in Skeptic Magazine?
I'm the editor-in-chief, publisher of Skeptic Magazine.
There you're literally a skeptic.
Yeah, that is my day job.
Yeah.
But it isn't that I don't believe things. I mean, I believe the theory of evolution. I think the Big Bang Theory happened when people like Neil deGrasse Tyson and my quantum physics friends tell me quantum physics is true. This is how we know it. To me, it's weird, spooky. I don't really understand it, but okay. We have tons of evidence.